All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle something that can feel, well, a little bit baffling. We're talking about the British political system. It's this wild mix of ancient traditions and super modern contradictions. So let's just dive right in, shall we?
And this really gets us to the core question, the big puzzle we're trying to solve here. I mean, think about it. How can a modern democracy, a major player on the world stage, have a monarch and no single written constitution? It sounds kind of contradictory, right? So how on earth does it all hang together? To figure that out, we've got to start from the ground up.
So our first stop is Britain's really unique constitutional setup. Unlike places like the United States or France, you can't just go and find one single document titled the British Constitution. Nope, it's something much more fluid.
So, the key thing to wrap your head around is this idea of an unwritten constitution. Now, that doesn't mean it's total chaos, not at all. It just means the rulebook isn't one single document. Instead, it's this complicated tapestry woven together from a bunch of different things. Actual laws passed by Parliament, really important court decisions over the years, and, this is crucial, these unwritten rules and traditions they call conventions. It's a system that's basically just grown organically over centuries, not something designed all at once.
So what's the trade-off here? Well, the big plus is flexibility. The whole system can adapt to new challenges without the huge hassle of formally amending a constitution. But the flip side is that it can be ambiguous. When the rules aren't all written down in one clear place, it can get a little murky for citizens trying to figure out their exact rights, and, it can open the door for political games.
Okay, let's talk about that other really unique feature, the monarchy. Britain is what's called a constitutional monarchy, and what that means is, while the king is technically the head of state, his role is almost entirely ceremonial. He's a symbol of national unity, of history, but the real power, the day-to-day business of governing, that's all in the hands of elected officials in Parliament.
And this, of course, brings us to a pretty constant debate. The monarchy has a pretty hefty price tag, and it's funded by taxpayers. So critics are always asking, is this expense really justified? And they question the whole idea of a hereditary head of state in a democracy. But on the other side, supporters will tell you that the monarchy is a stabilizing force, a huge draw for tourism, and that it boosts the UK's reputation around the world.
So, if the monarch doesn't actually rule, who does? Well, the power lies with the people who get elected. But how they get elected is a huge deal. It brings us to the voting system, which has a massive impact on who actually ends up in charge.
So, the UK uses a system called First Past the Post. It's actually very simple on the surface. The whole country is carved up into different areas called constituencies. In each one, you cast your vote for one candidate, and whoever gets the most votes wins the seat. It doesn't even have to be more than 50%, just one more vote than the person in second place. It's a pure winner-takes-all race.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and you can see why this system is so controversial. Take the 2015 general election, for example. The Conservative Party got just under 37% of the nationwide vote. 37%. But because of how the system works, that translated into almost 51% of the seats in Parliament. That's a clear majority. So you end up with a situation where a party can have full control of the government without winning a majority of the actual votes. And that is the number one criticism you'll hear about First Past the Post.
Okay, so once these representatives are elected, where do they go? They head to Parliament. But Parliament isn't just one giant room full of people arguing. It's actually a bicameral system, which is just a fancy way of saying it has two separate chambers, or houses, that have to work together. Let's break down how that legislative structure works.
Right, here's the breakdown. You've got the House of Commons, that's the main event. It's made up of members of Parliament, or MPs, the ones we elect. This is where the big debates happen, where new laws are really born and where the government gets held to account. Then you have the House of Lords. Its members are called peers, and they're either appointed for their expertise or, in some cases, they've inherited their title. Their main job is to be a check on the Commons, to take a second look at proposed laws and to suggest improvements.
So what do these two houses actually do all day? Well, their most important job is making the country's laws. But an idea for a law doesn't just become official overnight. Oh no, it has to survive a long and pretty tough process. It's like a legislative gauntlet.
Okay, so a proposed law starts life as a bill. First, it has to survive this whole obstacle course in the House of Commons. There's an introduction, a big debate on the main ideas, then it gets picked apart line by line in a committee, and finally there's a last vote. But even if it gets through all that, it's not over, not even close. The whole thing gets sent over to the House of Lords, and guess what? They do the exact same process all over again. The Lords can tweak it, suggest changes, and send it ping-ponging back to the Commons. It's only when both houses can finally agree on the exact same wording that it can go to the monarch for the final royal stamp of approval called royal assent. It's a real marathon.
So a law finally gets passed. Great, but who actually puts it into action, and who makes sure it's being followed correctly? This is where the executive and judicial branches of government step in.
The executive branch is led by the Prime Minister, who is almost always the leader of the party that won the most seats in the election. The PM then picks a team of senior ministers known as the Cabinet to run all the major government departments, things like health, defense, and education. These are the people responsible for actually implementing the laws that Parliament passes.
And last but not least, you've got the judiciary, the court system. Now, this branch is totally independent from Parliament and the government. Its whole job is to interpret the laws and make sure everyone, and that includes the government itself, is playing by the rules. At the very top of the pyramid is the Supreme Court, which is the final court of appeal for the biggest, most important cases in the UK.
So, when you put it all together, what do you get? You've got this unique blend, an unwritten, super flexible constitution, a monarchy that's more symbolic than powerful, a winner-takes-all election system, and a powerful two-chamber parliament. It's a system that wasn't designed on a whiteboard. It's been built up over centuries of tradition, evolution, and, let's be honest, a lot of compromise. So, the big question we're left with is this. Is a system built on all that history actually built for the future? Is it agile enough to handle the crazy challenges of the 21st century? That's really something to think about.